Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DogCatFox and Friend. He's DogCatFox. Wowie, wow, wow. And I'm the friend. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. Yes, it's actually kind of nice. It's not super hot right now, which I'm glad. Very glad for. I'm not a creature of heat. I'm a creature of rain and fog. So I'll take this respite for what it's worth. But who's joining me on this beautiful Saturday afternoon? The Alexander, good afternoon. Advocatus Diaboli, hello. Who else is here? Funtime Bats, hello. Mike Savage, blarg. Shady Grin, hello. Who else here? Kiever Dam is here. And thank you, Kiever Dam, as always, for providing the link to the GoFundMe to our friend Angela Arriaga. Guys, it's at the top of the chat box, if I can enunciate today. Please take a look at that when you have the opportunity. If you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Kiever Dam, for providing the link. Juliet, good afternoon. Who else is here? Kiro Soldier, hello. Corey Suzuki, hello. The Dead Man, hello. JPS, good afternoon. Fostonia, hello. Unfair Ophelia, good afternoon. Simon Willikins, hello. And I think that's everybody I see. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, hello. And if I see you later, I'll say hello. Also, if I miss it and Found shows up, everybody let me know if Found shows up, because I was remiss. I was so dialed in to the TED Excellence on Thursday that I didn't see the chat part where it said that Found just had a child. And I always like to celebrate yay baby when there's new babies in the world. So if Found pops in, I'll keep my eyes on the chat more today than I would on a TEDx, but I feel bad that I missed that. Robert Pincus, hello. Suzanne a la Richard, good afternoon. But yeah, lots of stuff in the news this week. Golly gee, is there anything I can talk about that hasn't already been talked about to death? Oh, the Coldplay infidelity. I tell you what, the Coldplay infidelity has generated the greatest era of memes of 2025. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, you're missing out. You probably have to be on Twitter to see them. But the different pairings that people have come up with using AI and other art skills have been hilarious. So that's been the biggest sort of, that's one of the most unifying Schadenfreude events of modern history, I think, where it's a completely self-forced error on the part of two people who are married to two different people. And there's no politics involved. Everybody on either side of the political spectrum all just look at this and go like, oh! Anyway, Kiro Soldier, thank you so much. My muse returned, jotting down a new novel. Holy cats. Kiro Soldier, congratulations. I, too, have been working on a writing project of late. It's far less serious and far more silly, I'm sure, than what you're working on. But I know something of the sensation of inspiration and feeling like you've got something to do, something to work on. So congratulations on that. Hope it goes well. Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. And Abdicata says, if they had just acted normal, they would never have been caught. Yeah, it is the one of the sort of microcosm of the cover-up is worse than the crime sort of things. Although someone would have recognized him elsewise. The CEO of that company, someone would have recognized him. But it makes it even worse or better, depending on how you look at it, the way they did react. So, Corey Suzuki, thank you so much. Something about Coldplay making 4 singles that day. Ah ha ha! Ah ha ha! Yeah, that's a good one. But thank you, Corey. Yeah, that was great. That was great. And Simon Wilkins, I had a couple psychic moments today. Was one of them reading? Was one of them my reading your comment? There you go. All right, but I did try to pick out a few stories. Let's start off with one that everybody knows about. Oh, wait a second. Harvos Marvos. Wait a second. When was the last time I said Harvos Marvos? Harvos, have you been gone for a while, or am I just having a senior moment? Harvos Marvos. So I've got that sort of like audio sensual memory or something of when I've said names previously, and I feel like it's been a long time since I've said your name. Been a while, haven't had the time to watch live. Well, welcome back. Glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Peter, good afternoon. But yeah, let's start off with a story that most people have some knowledge about right now, just to get this out of the way. Inside CBS's agonizing decision to cancel Colbert's top-rated late-night show. Yes, everyone, within 10 months, I think it is, we'll all be deprived of Stephen Colbert on late night. I know you share my heartbreak. Also, Brandon Foster. Hello, I almost said Brandon Fraser. That'd be a completely different person. As far as I know, you do not chase mummies, do you? Unless it's like a MILF thing. Anyway, from the outside, the idea made no sense at all. Why would a broadcast network cancel one of its best-known shows that ranks number one in its time slot? Well, just because something's well-known does not mean that it's profitable. We were talking about this sort of sidewise on Midnight's Edge the other day, where it's like, Superman is a well-known icon. Is Superman really a profitable character? Right? It's like everybody knows who the Peanuts are, or the Smurfs for that matter. They're very familiar, they're well-known. But can you actually make a successful franchise off of something like that, or a movie? I guess the Smurfs will find out pretty quick. But just being well-known, argumum ad populum, does not a success make. But on the inside, at CBS, there were several plausible answers to the question. While The Late Show host Stephen Colbert was on his usual midsummer vacation earlier this month, CBS executives weighed the pros and cons of canceling the unique but unfortunately unprofitable show. Unique? Okay. I'll confess, I think I have seen a total of maybe 30 minutes of Stephen Colbert's show. And that's just in like the aggregate of clips I've seen over the time. Like I see the one where Caitlin Collins, I think it was, from CNN or somebody was on there and they laughed when Stephen Colbert said that CNN was a trustworthy news outlet or something. The one where Claire Danes is on there and she starts talking about how the intelligence apparatus are conspiring with journalists and Colbert suddenly waves it off. And of course his dance number for the vaccine. I think aside from those three things and maybe a couple of that's about as much as I've ever watched. So I'm not quite sure what's unique about his show. Someone would have to tell me. Because everything I've seen of it looks just like every other talk show. The cons were obvious, as evidenced by the studio audience's boos when Colbert announced the cancellation on Thursday night. It's not going to mean much. However, the pros ultimately won out because, according to sources close to the network, The Late Show was losing money and there was no apparent path to turning around its financial position. How much do they pay Colbert a year? Isn't it something like $15 or $20 million or something? Which is insane. It was an agonizing decision, as the executives admitted in a statement. But CBS insiders insist, even when speaking frankly on condition of anonymity, that the move was financially driven, not politically motivated. Many observers have huge doubts about that, given that Colbert has been an outspoken critic of President Trump. Colbert has been an outspoken critic of President Trump forever. Why now? Oh, is it because of the lawsuit? Well, here's the thing. They're not just canceling Colbert. They're canceling The Late Show writ large. It's gone. The whole show is gone. They're not just getting rid of Colbert and replacing him like, oh, you can't have that guy on your show anymore. No, they're just getting rid of everything. The Writers Guild of America, which represents writers on The Late Show, said Friday that it is concerned the cancellation was a bribe to curry favor with the Trump administration. The Guild wants the New York State Attorney General to launch an investigation. While the political uproar continues, here's what the data indicates. The bottom has indeed been falling out of the late-night TV business model for several years now. Audience fragmentation and digital competition have led to a decline in ad revenue across the board. One insider described it as cratering at CBS. Yes, I'd be curious to know, and I'm sure somebody's already done this comparison. How does an average week, I'll just say a week of Stephen Colbert compared to a single episode of Joe Rogan, just in viewership alone. How does that line up, I wonder? Maybe I'm being too much. Maybe a week's too much. But honestly, there are podcasts out there and YouTube talk shows and things that are probably outpacing Colbert by a country mile. That's because even though Colbert outrated his competition at 11:35 p.m., the overall audience for late night has been shrinking. Quote, ad dollars and audiences are moving away from late night shows, Variety reported, and that was back in 2023. Well, it's been going on for longer than that, but okay. The financial picture has only gotten gloomier since then. Guideline, an ad data firm, estimates that the network's late night shows earned $439 million in ad revenue in 2018 and only $220 million in 2024, a decline of 50%. Oh my gosh. Deadman, can you drop a link for this article? Oh, links to all the articles are in the description. So all the articles that I'm referencing today, you can find them in the description below. So there you go. I can provide the links, and they're already there. Also, Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Hello. SWD40. Hello. Anybody else I missed in the meantime? I hope not. But you never know. I think I got everybody. Bishop. Hello. But hope everybody's doing good. Let's see. It dropped back at 50%. The shows hosted by Colbert and his rivals Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel are inherently expensive to produce. Really? With hundreds of staffers and elaborate studio productions. You know, I've never watched it, but I am told the talk show Call Her Daddy or something is like a set and a couple of chairs, camera and microphones. Like that's it. How expensive is Joe Rogan's show to put on? Part of the problem is that the networks still believe that people need this vaudevillian, giant, I don't know, expensive production going on to have an engaging show. Look at Graham Norton over on BBC. He just sits four, sometimes random celebrities down on a couch and they just talk for an hour and a half. There's no production. There's no, circus acts or anything. It's just a set, an audience, and interesting people having interesting conversations, and that's it. Like it's a more sort of comedy-focused version of what Dick Cavett used to do. And seriously, how difficult is it? How expensive can it be? If you have a host who can be engaging with people and you bring on guests who are themselves interesting to listen to. Anyway, let's see. These shows are also an awkward fit on streaming platforms since they tend to be topical, limiting the shelf life of the content. It depends on who you're having on and what you're talking about. But anyway, Colbert's commentaries and interviews often go viral on social media. Do they? But that attention isn't easily converted into cold, hard cash since CBS doesn't control the social platforms. Well, they tried. CBS should make their own social platform. See how that goes. But couldn't CBS have explored changes to the cost structure? That's what the network did later in the evening in its 12:35 a.m. time slot in 2023. The Late Late Show with James Corden ended, partly due to the fact that it was no longer making money for CBS, and a cheaper show called After Midnight was launched in its place. Yeah, and how did that do? Who was hosting that? Colbert was an executive producer on both After Midnight and The Late Show, so he had some visibility into the financial circumstances. But the swiftness of the network's decision suggests that he wasn't given much time to suggest cost savings or other alternatives. Suggest. Here's a writer's tip. Try not to use the same word in the same sentence as much as you can, except for those, necessary interrogatives like the, of, and, etc. Like suggests. You could say something like, but the swiftness of the network's decision indicates that he wasn't given much time to suggest cost savings or other alternatives. Something like that. Just a note. That's why one person close to the Colbert show, or probably close to Colbert, described the show's retirement, effective in May 2026, as a, quote, casualty of the merger. I can imagine. They come in, they look at the financials, they say, what's making money, what's losing money? This is losing money. How long has it been losing money? For years. It's gone. Ta-da! That merger is CBS parent Paramount's long gestating deal with Skydance, a media company controlled by David Ellison, son of Oracle billionaire Larry Ellison. The elder Ellison is a longtime friend of President Trump and has previously described himself as a Trump supporter. And David Ellison was spotted with the president earlier this year at UFC matches. Here's the thing. If Colbert was making the company money, like if Colbert's show and Colbert himself was making money hand over fist for Paramount, they wouldn't let him go. And even Trump wouldn't tell them to let him go. Because he's making the money. Trump being for things to make money at his own expense, he's done that before. For himself. The pending deal matters for two reasons. One, because companies almost always try to cut costs around the time of a merger, right? And two, because the deal requires sign-off from the Trump administration. Well, it requires sign-off from departments within the government that approve such things, but specifically in this time around, sure, if you want to call it the Trump administration. Paramount entered into a settlement agreement with Trump earlier this month to resolve Trump's lawsuit against CBS News program 60 Minutes. The company said it would pay $16 million towards Trump's future presidential library. Trump suggested at the time that there were other components to the settlement. While there is no evidence that Colbert's cancellation is connected to the settlement, Democratic senators like Elizabeth Warren are asking questions about the possibility. Oh, Elizabeth Warren, conspiracy theorist. Boy, oh boy, Elizabeth Warren. America deserves to know if his show was canceled for political reasons, Warren said in a statement Thursday night. Do we? Is this really the biggest issue that Elizabeth Warren should be focusing her efforts on in discovering the truth for the American people? You think? At the very least, CBS executives moved forward with the retirement of the Late Show franchise, knowing that the optics would cause all manner of controversy. Well then, it must have been worth it if the financials are what they are suspected to be. Trump personally celebrated the cancellation on Friday morning, writing on Truth Social that, quote, I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next. Has even less talent than Colbert, unquote. I said this to somebody as soon as the news came out. I said, you know, if he's the top-rated late-night show and he's not making enough money for the network to justify further expense, that means every other late-night show is about to fall down. Because if the king falls, so does everybody below him. And how's NBC going to keep justifying The Tonight Show? Or at least justify the Tonight Show as it is currently rendered. And I forget who, was it and Kimmel? Oh yeah, man. Yeah, the days are dark for late night. Meanwhile, the Trump administration's merger review process continues to move forward, albeit slowly. David Ellison was in Washington to meet with FCC Chairman Brendan Carr and other FCC officials on Tuesday, according to a government filing by Skydance on Friday. The company said Ellison, quote, discussed Skydance's commitment to unbiased journalism, whatever that means, and its embrace of diverse viewpoints, I love diversity, principles that will ensure CBS's editorial decision-making reflects the varied ideological perspectives of American viewers. Oh, he's talking about diversity of thought? Well, that'd be nice. I'll believe it when I see it. But anyway, Random American is here. Now's your chance. Make a play to be the new nighttime host. Well, I was saying that Paul Chatto should take over, have a show called Chatting with Chatto. And he can just talk to people about stuff. That's it. Podcasts and live streams are more entertaining than they are. I like to think so. But I might be biased. Just a little bit. Also, Jill Powers is off to have lasagna. Jill Powers, the Garfield daughter. About to go have some lasagna. Well, I hope the lasagna is good. Bye, Jill. See you later. But yeah, there's your late night update. And personally, If Stephen Colbert had gone away 3 weeks ago and nobody said anything, I wouldn't have noticed. I just, no, don't care. Read by nature, Paul Chateau. Yes, Chateau. And Adam Nixon, hello. No, Paul cannot be a new U.S. host. He's a Canadian. You can't be stealing our Canadians anymore. Hey, Craig Ferguson was a Scot who became an American citizen, but he hosted a late night show while he was still not a citizen. We can ship in some Paul Chateau. Why not? Nothing's impossible in the day and age of the information superhighway. Speaking of what's not impossible in this day and age, how about actual sugar in Coca-Cola? Oh my gosh, guys. Mexican Coca-Cola becoming the standard? What? President Donald Trump announced this week that the Coca-Cola company has agreed to his requests for the brand to use real cane sugar in its U.S. products instead of high fructose corn syrup. The company hasn't confirmed the swap, but high fructose corn syrup has been one of many products targeted by U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. in recent months. Kennedy called the common cheap sweetener a, quote, formula for making you obese and diabetic in a September episode of Dr. Jordan Peterson's podcast. Kennedy and the Make America Healthy Again movement he leads have been lobbying the food and beverage industry to remove several ingredients from product formulations, including artificial food dyes and seed oils. While Coca-Cola is made with high fructose corn syrup in the United States, its Mexican counterpart is made with cane sugar, a significant export of the country. And I gotta tell you, it's way better. Way, way, way better. Now, the one exception I'll make is that I have had now, because I ordered it special for my birthday this year, cane sugar Dr. Pepper. And I'll tell you, it doesn't taste as good. I know, this sounds like, health blasphemy or something, but regular old Dr. Pepper in a can, American style, tastes better than pure cane Dr. Pepper. Now, maybe I'd have to get used to it. I don't know. But there's just something, like the difference between regular Coca-Cola and Mexican Coca-Cola, it's instantaneous. Like, wow, this tastes so much better. But it's the opposite for me for Dr. Pepper. So it is what it is. The company did not confirm Trump's announcement and said it is unable to provide further comment at this time due to its upcoming earnings. Okay. Coca-Cola issued a statement for a Thursday report saying that, quote, more details on new innovative offerings within our Coca-Cola product range will be shared soon. There's no more innovative offerings to be had. People just want Coca-Cola. That's it. I mean, I know that Coca-Cola, the company, has its fingers in a million different sort of soft drink pies, so to speak, but just get your main one right and you'll be fine. Is cane sugar soda better for you? Well, better in what sense? Sugar-filled soda isn't good for you regardless of whatever sugar is used to sweeten it, according to health experts. It's true. It's still just sugar. More sugar than your body needs on any particular day, but heck, we're all addicts now, aren't we? Quote, excess consumption of sugar from any source harms health, said Ava Greenthal, senior policy scientist at the Center for Science in the Public Interest, not scientific in the public interest, a nonprofit consumer advocacy group via email. Quote, what makes soda unhealthy is that it's liquid sugar, providing empty calories with no nutritional benefits. Well, I mean, it gets me up and going to do some exercise, right? Swapping one type of sugar for another does nothing to make soda healthier. It does taste better, though. This is a long, good gravy. Okay, I didn't know the article was that long. Then it turns into a big health thing. Okay, just so you know, guys, soda's not good for you. There's no health benefit to it. Drink some orange juice. Even orange juice these days has too much sugar in it, but at least you get something nutritional out of it, a little bit. But it tastes good. We're addicted to the caffeine and stuff. Yeah, it's fine. Life is short. Enjoy something. But no, on flavor-wise, it tastes way better than standard Coca-Cola, in my opinion. And I'm not being sponsored. Just the way that it is. Harvos Marvos. All health food would be more popular if they could get the flavoring correct. And yes, you can make flavoring without making it unhealthy. Imagine having a salad and it tasted like cinnamon buns. That would probably throw my brain for a loop if I started seeing salad as dessert. But then that might be better for me. Of course, how much flavoring and what would that flavoring do to me? I don't know. Yeah, sure. Make celery taste like chocolate. Chocolary. Anyway, so hopefully, at least for the sake of Coca-Cola. Now, I don't think that Coca-Cola covers Dr. Pepper, right? Dr. Pepper is run by a different company. So, yeah, I still like the the high fructose corn syrup version of Dr. Pepper. It tastes better to me. That's just me. Cinnamon toast salad. Sure. Hey, they should get on that. General Mills. It is General Mills, right? General Mills, get on that. Start putting out cinnamon toast salad. And cherry tomatoes or something. That's just oats. What am I talking about? Anyway, speaking of more Trump action, because why not? 3 stories in a row about Trump. Trump sues Murdoch and Wall Street Journal for $10 billion over Epstein article. I don't know if you heard about this. It's quite the story. Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal's parent company Dow Jones and its owner Rupert Murdoch over claims that he wrote a bawdy note to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The U.S. president claims the publication slandered him and violated libel laws in an article alleging that a birthday greeting bearing Trump's name was sent to the late financier. Is that really what we're going to classify him as at this point? The late financier? Isn't there something a bit more, I don't know, important and prominent to mention about this individual than his financial prowess? But okay. Trump's name was sent to the late financier in 2003 before he was charged with sex crimes. Oh, is that it? Oh, okay. Trump said the note, which the paper reported he had sent for Epstein's 50th birthday, is, quote, fake, unquote. It came as the U.S. Justice Department asked a judge to unseal material related to Epstein following intense criticism of the Trump administration's handling of the case. Now, one of the things that I've been just bewildered by is that, Epstein was not some kind of new news, even as far back as 2016, right? Or afterwards, I should say, because I think he wasn't prosecuted until then. But over the course of the first Trump administration, over the course of the entirety of the Biden administration going into the 2024 election, and them doing everything they possibly could to undercut Trump's options to become president again, if they had this, the Department of Justice has had this stuff for years. If they've had it for years, even under an administration that was decidedly anti-Trump, why is this only being released now? Why is this only being leaked now? Now, I can't say whether it's true or fake or a hoax or I don't know. But if somebody had stuff that directly tied Trump to Epstein beyond what we already knew through photographs and other things, if additional information came out that made him sympathetic to Epstein at all, I don't quite understand the mechanisms that allowed it to go unsaid and unrevealed until now. It's so bizarre. This entire thing is it's such a maze, Let's see. It came as the U.S. Justice Department asked a judge to unseal material related to Epstein following intense criticism of the Trump administration's handling of the case. Trump said on social media, quote, "We have just filed a powerhouse lawsuit against everyone involved in publishing the false, malicious, defamatory, fake news article in the useless rag that is the Washington Journal." The Wall Street Journal. The Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. 6 of one thing, half a dozen of the other. Quote, I hope Rupert and his friends are looking forward to the many hours of depositions and testimonies that they will have to provide in this case. He said the newspaper and Murdoch, with whom Trump has had an up and down relationship for decades, were warned that they would be sued if they printed the article. A Dow Jones spokesperson said in a statement to the BBC, quote, we have full confidence in the rigor and accuracy of our reporting and will vigorously defend against any lawsuit, unquote. Murdoch, who was seen on Sunday attending the FIFA Club World Cup with Trump, founded a media empire which is credited by some with helping propel the president to the White House. So at the same time that he's getting ready to sue these guys, According to the Wall Street Journal, a letter bearing Trump's name contains several lines of typewritten text framed by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to be hand-drawn with a heavy marker, unquote. Quote, inside the outline of the naked woman was the typewritten note styled as an imaginary conversation between Trump and Epstein, written in the third person, the paper reported. It reportedly contained a joking reference that, quote, enigmas never age, unquote, and allegedly ended with the words, quote, a pal is a wonderful thing, happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret, unquote. Trump denied writing the note after the article was published on Thursday, posting, quote, these are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures, unquote, even though since then we've seen several examples of people showing, no, here's sketches that Trump does, and he always does it in like a Sharpie marker, and he signs it like this, and he'll do these things as part of promotional things or gifts to people. The U.S. Justice Department request concerns transcripts from the grand jury involved in the government's 2019 sex trafficking case against Epstein, materials that are typically kept secret and protected by law. That's the part that I'm not quite sure what they're going to do, because as far as I know, federal grand jury testimony cannot be released. Like the law says thou shalt not release it. State grand jury testimony can be with, I think, a judge's order or something. But federal grand jury testimony, I think, is under lock and key forever. So I'm not quite sure how they're going to reveal anything from grand jury testimony for federal charges or cases, but I guess we'll find out. The Justice Department formally made the request to a judge in New York, arguing the materials related to the case, where he was charged with trafficking dozens of girls as young as 14, quote, qualify as a matter of public interest, unquote. The department is also asking for disclosures in the case of his associate Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted in the child sex trafficking conspiracy. Good gravy. A grand jury, a panel of people who vet whether there is enough evidence to charge a person with a crime, can hear from confidential informants and those whose identities are protected for their safety. Materials in a grand jury are typically kept secret under the law, but a judge can unseal documents if they decide public interest outweighs the need for such legal protections in a case. Yeah, but I mean, even if the judge says, okay, maybe, they would have to contact every individual who testified and or every individual who might have been mentioned or implicated in the thing to get their permission, probably, to release the information. And I'm assuming, I know I might be going out on a ledge here, I'm assuming some of the names and people involved in this case might have some deep pockets and some big legal teams. So the prospect that we'll hear anything in the near future, I think, is pretty slim, because this stuff will probably go through many, many legal challenges between now and the end of time anyway. And whatever we do eventually get, it's going to be heavily redacted. There's just no. The only way that we're ever going to get anything clear on this is if someone leaks unredacted documents. That's it. You're going to have a Pentagon Papers kind of thing going on before we're going to see anything of substance. Now, I didn't say substantive. Oh, okay, now I've said substantive. I don't try to do that every episode, but it seems like I come up with a reason to every episode. Anyway. Let's see. Either way, it is unclear when or if the documents will be released, or if they contain many of the details Trump's supporters have been demanding to see. Hey, all I got to tell you is it doesn't seem likely that Jeffrey Epstein made all of his money out of thin air, and in doing what he was doing, he was just trafficking to himself. It's not impossible, I guess, but he had his whole house wired up. Prince Andrew's story doesn't pass muster. Don't know what to tell you. I forget where I saw it. There was some legal analysis about this, or the potential of what might be available in the hypothetical Epstein files. And this legal guy, I think it was on Law and Crime, but anyway, this analysis was that, in most cases like this, we don't go after the Johns. Right? You don't usually go after the Johns. You go after the people in charge of the women, sometimes the women themselves, depending, but you don't always go after the Johns. And I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, except for the fact that the Johns in this case would be PDF files and perhaps very powerful such individuals. So I don't know if the guy was trying to make excuses or saying that, we don't usually bother with these things. Like, I think this is kind of a different sort of case. I would beg to differ. So I don't know if the guy was being just sort of like cynical about the law and how we usually proceed with things. But in this instance, I think it matters. I think it probably does matter a lot. But I guess time will tell. Or not, as the case may be. I mean, it's been, over 2 decades or something, or almost 2 decades now, since he was originally convicted in Florida. And he had the sweetheart deal of the century then, too. He got to, basically take a nap in prison each day and then walk out to go do his work. So silly. Let's see. Suzanu, but they do go after the Johns as a norm. Operation Cross Country, like I say, I've seen plenty where they've captured guys who have been soliciting, but I suppose if they find an operation that's already been going on that wasn't something that was like a sting put on by authorities, maybe, I don't know. I'm not a cop. I'm not a law enforcement expert. Fostonia, thank you so much. My problem with this is if there was anything, wouldn't the Democrats bring this out when they were in control a couple of years back to sink Trump's return? Well, here's the counter argument to that, is that do you cut off your own nose to spite your face? Are there individuals, names, personalities, or otherwise, whether they're guilty of crimes or not, or just guilty of being associated with Epstein, that would necessarily also come out along with anything dealing with Trump? It's like, we're going to get Trump, but then you also implicate some of your friends and or funders and, donators and things. That's the suspicion, is that everybody is included in this. There's sort of a systemic risk. It's sort of like the 2008 financial crisis, where it's like, if this one bank goes down, it is so intertwined with all these other entities that it would drag everything else down with it. So that's the theory I've heard. But it is just a theory. An Epstein theory. Resolute Germ, when it comes to kids, they always go after the John. I would hope so, but not in this case, apparently. Not thus far. Frankie Delar, not if there is more or as much of them as there. Exactly. Yeah, it's all about a balance. It's all about who's implicated. And again, it might not even be people who are implicated in crimes, but just implicated by association. Because in a situation like this, if your name comes up as having had lunch with Jeffrey Epstein once, right? The crimes of other people, that could fall upon you as suspicion. And so I'm being sincere here, it's entirely possible there is a whole list of famous names and faces and such that have been, quote unquote, associated with Epstein in the most innocuous way possible. And yet, if their names were to be brought up in the course of all of this other stuff, But see, and here's what has to happen. you have to be able to sit down with, this is what like a fireside chat should be or something. Where like Donald Trump and or him and Pam Bondi sit down and give out the facts and say, okay, so here's the deal. There are a number of names on this list of associates that we know for a fact had nothing to do with the crimes. We have gone through it. They have been investigated left, right, and center. There is nothing to implicate them in the crimes. But for the sake of transparency, those names are going to be listed. But again, and just treat the entire world like 10-year-olds and make it very plain. That's what you need to do. Otherwise, all this other stuff just obscures the issue and makes it even more salacious as to what might or might not be done or said. If they were just to treat people like adults and lay it out plain in simple terms, but just be transparent about it. But we can't have that now, can we? We can't have nice things. So they should go over Epstein's 2007 NPA, named 4 co-conspirators and also covered unnamed potentials. Will they? Won't they? Don't know. But let's get into some more interesting stories. I wanted to cover this one because I've seen several stories like this in the last month or two, and something about this one just called to me. A U.S. citizen and Army veteran was detained at an immigration raid and held for 3 days. His family scrambled to find him. Okay, now I'm going to withhold comment until we get a bit deeper into the story, but I got to tell you. George Rates, or Rates, I'm not quite sure how to say it. I'll give my best shot. A 25-year-old Army veteran and father of 2, he's been a busy guy in his short life, had been planning his 3-year-old daughter's Minnie Mouse birthday party at the park for weeks. Aww. He would get her an inflatable bounce house. Man, those are expensive to rent. Invite the whole family and shower her with gifts and treats. She was excited for the fun party, and he was excited to see the smile on her face, he said. Aww. My heartstrings are doth tugged. Those plans fell apart last week when Rates, a U.S. citizen, was detained by federal immigration agents during an immigration raid and protest at a legal Southern California marijuana farm where he worked. Oh. Gosh, guys. Because as we know, being a U.S. citizen indemnifies you from being arrested or detained by law enforcement. You guys all knew that, didn't you? Right? If I am present at the scene of a potential criminal operation, well, I'm a citizen. I can't be charged. I'm like the Thane of Whiterun. Right? A crime is committed. I'm implicated. I just say, I'm the Thane. And the guard goes, well then, I'll look past it this one time. That's kind of how it works. As you know. Left injured and burned from pepper spray and tear gas, Rates was detained for 3 days without explanation. He said. His wife, who couldn't reach him during his detention, was scrambling to find out where her husband had been taken. And Rates missed the party he and his toddler had been dreaming about. Instead of seeing flickering birthday candles and hearing children's laughter on his daughter's birthday, the father found himself alone in a cell with bright lights that never turned off, his skin burning and limbs aching. As he laid on a thin mattress covering a cement slab, he wondered if he would ever see his family again. Quote, all I wanted was to be there for my daughter's birthday. I was so excited to watch her turn 3 and just enjoy her day and just watch her be happy for her day, unquote, Rates told CNN. Quote, and it sucked not being there, unquote. Golly, guys. Golly, gee. Whiz. The arrest unfolded on July 10th when federal immigration officers carried out large-scale raids at 2 glass house marijuana farms in Carpinteria, Carpinteria, and Camarillo, and arrested over 300 people, part of an ongoing trend of immigration enforcement at work sites like farms and construction sites that have struck fear into immigrant communities. You mean illegal immigrant communities? Okay, CNN, I know that this is practically impossible for you to do, but could you, in any way, shape, or form, present even just the stated, if there has been a stated, reason for this raid? I mean, I'm assuming, and I know what happens when you do that, but I'm assuming that ICE didn't just throw a dart at a wall and decided to raid this marijuana farm. What were their reasons? That day, Reyes says he woke up and drove to work like he would any other day, not knowing there was unrest at his workplace. When he arrived at Glass House Farms in Camarillo, where he works as a contract security guard, he was met with throngs of protesters, cars piled up in the middle of the road, and people standing in the street. So wait a second. I mean, it's not impossible, but in this day and age in particular, so the security guy, contract security guy at this place, there's no phone tree, message tree, something that would have alerted him before he showed up that there was a problem at the site. Nobody working there, security or even not security, to alert security, would have said something? Okay. Every time I hit a beat in this story that makes me go, huh? It just kind of adds on over time. He made his way through the crowd and was confronted by a barricade of agents blocking anyone from going into Glass House, he recounted. Okay, and so he took the hint and turned around and went away? Right? The Department of Homeland Security said Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers were executing warrants at the marijuana grow sites and were met with hundreds of protesters. Warrants over what, might I ask? He got out of his car how did he get out of his car? If he was at a barricade. He was confronted by a barricade of agents blocking anyone from going into the Glass House. Okay, so having seen this barricade, he got out of his car and walked up to the agents to let them know he's an American citizen who's just trying to get to work. Okay, so you've just walked up to law enforcement and you've said, I am an employee at this business that is currently being raided by federal authorities. Okay. By the way, I'm an American citizen. Because obviously, again, as we know, if you are a U.S. citizen, you are inoculated from arrest by ICE. Obviously, ICE couldn't possibly arrest anyone who is an American citizen because their only remit as law enforcement officers is to arrest non-citizens. If ICE were to show up to a scene of a crime and there are people participating in said crime who are a mixture of illegal immigrants and U.S. citizens, ICE could only apprehend, detain, and arrest the illegal immigrants, and the U.S. citizens are able to walk free, as we know. That's why every one of these stories just makes me go, bleh! What is that supposed to do? They arrested a U.S. citizen. Hey, you know, U.S. citizens are arrested every day. Quote, I didn't think it was going to be a problem for me to go to work. Dude, the work site is surrounded by federal agents. Do you think maybe that was the time to take a day? I didn't think it was going to be a problem for me to go to work as long as I identified myself and let them know what I was trying to do, he said. The agents refused to listen to him. They had no obligation to, Reyes says, so he returned to his car. That's when he says, there's a lot of, all of this information comes directly from the victim in the case. We have, so far, no input from federal authorities. That's when he says the situation escalated. The agents surrounded his car and started yelling conflicting orders to get out of his car, reverse and park his car. According to the father, remember guys, he's a father. If you didn't know, he's a father of children, guys. All he wanted to do was go to his 3-year-old daughter's birthday. Reitez then reversed, trying to leave the tense scene, he said. So, get out of your car, reverse and park your car. Okay, neither of these messages, even if they are conflicting, say anything about you being able to leave the scene. So, I think the mystery may have been solved. Agents continued yelling, banged on his window, and pulled on his door trying to get it open, he said. The uniformed federal agents eventually threw what appeared to be tear gas into the crowd of protesters, which blurred Reitez's vision and made him choke. While he was in his sealed car? I'm confused. Quote, I'm trying to leave. I'm trying to get out of here, Reitez said, he told the agents in between gasping breaths. Yeah, I'm trying to flee the scene of a federal raid. Jesus. No, officers, really. I'm just going to depart without you questioning me about my involvement in this potentially criminal operation. I will just drive that way. I have a birthday party to attend. Oh, man. At that moment, one agent shattered his driver's side window and another sprayed pepper spray in his face, Reitez said, recalling feeling a piece of glass from the window cut his leg. Then they dragged him out of the car and threw him on the ground, pinning him down, he said. Quote, I had one agent kneeling on my back and another one kneeling on my neck, Reitez said Reitez, who noted he had neck and back injuries from his 4-year Army service. Maybe you shouldn't have been fleeing the scene of a federal raid. I don't know. Reitez recalled telling officers he couldn't breathe because of the pepper spray and tear gas, but he said they proceeded to put him in handcuffs and dragged him away without explaining what he was arrested for. Well, at that point, you might have been just detained because they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know your involvement. You tried to flee the scene. I mean, that would be enough to arrest you if you're trying to flee the scene and after you've been told to stop and refusing officers' commands and such. And since we don't know the logistics of exactly what went down and how, I don't know. The Department of Homeland Security would later accuse Reitez of assault, an allegation he vehemently denies. Well, what kind of assault? Was he backing up his car with agents behind him or with agents trying to detain him? He was trying to run away in his car and they got injured in the process? I don't know. Quote, I just had no clue what was going to happen to me, Reitez said. Really? Reitez became one of a number of U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents detained or arrested in the tense raids amid the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, with some arrested without explanation and with no way to contact their families, immigrant advocacy groups say. Again, you are not cured of the possibility of arrest just because you're a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. U.S. citizens and legal permanent residents are arrested all the time. And especially if you happen to be a legal permanent resident or a U.S. citizen who is involved with an operation or an organization that is profiting on or trafficking in illegal immigration. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, shows of force and clashes between immigration officers and protesters at raid sites have become periodical occurrences in the Los Angeles area as more people oppose the federal government's immigration enforcement actions. Okay. They never told me anything. Okay. An EMT wrapped Reitez's leg wound in gauze before the father Remember, guys, if you forgot already, he's a dad. Just so you know, okay? A circumstance of biology that affects a whole lot of people on the planet and says absolutely nothing about their character, but he's a father, just so you know. Before, the father was escorted to an unmarked SUV and taken to an empty field where there were federal agents from several agencies, Raitis said. Agents took his fingerprints and photos, and when Raitis asked why he was detained, the agents wouldn't answer him, he recounted. Okay. Quote, they never told me anything. I sat there for hours asking them why I was here, why I'm being arrested, and no one could give me an answer, Raitis said. Quote, no one even knew who arrested me or why they arrested me. No one knew what was going to happen to me or who I was even going to go with, unquote. Well, first thing, I have a feeling you're not a psychic. So the other thing, we've only got this guy's testimony. CNN's doing a bang-up job here getting all sides of the story. Raitis was eventually driven to downtown Los Angeles' Metropolitan Detention Center, where he was held by the U.S. Marshals Service online records show. He was booked, given prison clothes, and placed in a holding cell with a professor who was detained during immigration protests that same day, Raitis said. Oh, was the professor a U.S. citizen by any chance? Was he arrested for breaking the law? I don't know. On Friday morning, Raitis filled out his intake form and answered questions from the medical staff about his childhood, past, and his life now. Based on his answers, they determined that he should be put on suicide watch, where he remained alone in a cell with bright lights that never turned off, according to Raitis. Guards were always outside his cell, and a psychiatrist checked on him once a day to ensure he wouldn't harm himself, he said. And just by reading that paragraph, I've probably tanked any possible future monetization for this stream. In the cell for days, Raitis was never told why he was arrested or if he was charged with any crimes, he said. He said. Tricia McLaughlin, Assistant Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, told CNN in a statement on Sunday that Raitis had not been charged. The U.S. Attorney's Office told CNN Friday it would not be pressing charges against Raitis. Okay. McLaughlin later said Raitis was detained for alleged assault, but did not provide details on the accusation. Okay. Quote, as CBP and ICE agents were executing criminal search warrants on July 10th at the marijuana facility in Camarillo, California, George Raitis, a U.S. citizen, became violent and refused to comply with law enforcement, McLaughlin said Thursday. He challenged agents and blocked their route by refusing to move his vehicle out of the road, unquote. Raitis denies the agency's allegations. Okay, well, the story that Raitis has relayed to us so far doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, so I guess it's a he said, she said. Quote, I would like to see where I assaulted an officer, and if that's true, why wasn't I charged, he said. They could lie all they want. That's not what happened, unquote. CNN has reached out to the U.S. Marshals and U.S. Customs and Border Protection for comment. Glass House said last week it received immigration and naturalization warrants on the day of the raids. Quote, as per the law, we verified that the warrants were valid and we complied. Workers were detained and we were assisting to provide them legal representation, Glass House said in a statement. What were the warrants about again? Just curious. Raitis described his detention as depressing, very confusing, and said he was so lost for those 3 long days. In pain from his injured leg and burning skin, all he could think of as he was stuck alone in the cell was that he would miss his daughter's 3rd birthday. Quote, I was there with my thoughts the entire time. Wondering if I was ever going to get out. If anyone ever even knew my story or what had happened to me, he said. I just thought I was never going to see my kids again. Though tear gas and pepper spray burned his eyes and skin, he was never given a chance to shower, he said. With an intense burning pain in his arms and legs, it was impossible for Raitis to sleep on what he described as a cement block with a thin mattress and thin blanket, he said. And he never received medical care for the gash on his leg, even after he pleaded for it, Raitis said. He never received medical care for the gash on his leg even after he pleaded for it, Raitis said. Admittedly, I am currently slightly inebriated. But, hold on. An EMT wrapped Reytes's leg wound in gauze before the father was escorted to an... Okay, I mean, I'm not quite sure what more needs to be done. Was it a cut that required stitches or something? Okay. During his detention, Reytes wasn't able to speak with an attorney or call his wife to let her know where he was, he said, adding that no one else called to let his loved ones know where he was. Quote, they didn't give them any information about where I was at, he said. Any agency they called, they were just giving them the runaround, unquote. Meanwhile, his wife was calling anybody she could to find out where her husband was taken and speaking with local news stations through tears. Quote, I just don't know where he's at. I've been up since 6 a.m. trying to call the sheriffs, the police department, Oxnard, Camarillo, Ventura. They say they don't know, his wife Guadalupe Torres told CNN on Friday. The Federal Bureau of Prisons, which runs the Metropolitan Detention Center, declined to comment Friday on the conditions of Reytes's confinement, citing privacy and security reasons, but told CNN in a statement that, quote, all individuals in BOP custody, regardless of housing assignment, are continually encouraged to maintain contact with loved ones, friends, and outside resources, unquote. Each individual is independently treated on a case-by-case basis, and treatment is provided as clinically indicated, including referrals to specialists, the statement read in part. Okay, finally on Sunday, Reytes was told he would be released and was walked downstairs where he signed for his belongings and was told he was free to leave. The father recalled. The father. Quote, so basically I was locked up for no reason. No, it sounds like you were locked up for a reason. Just that reasons they decided not to prosecute. And missed my daughter's birthday for no reason. There were reasons, dude. Reytes said he asked the guards. He says he was met with silence. Okay. Once he was outside, Reytes was happy to feel the fresh air and the sun against his skin, he said. His wife picked him up and the couple headed to his parents' house to see their young daughter and 8-year-old son. Quote, I felt relieved to see a familiar face, and just at that moment when I saw her, I knew it was real, that I was finally out, Reytes said, reuniting with his wife. Once they arrived at the house, the first thing Reytes did was run up to his kids and hug them. They ran into his arms screaming, Dad, he said. It was the best thing ever. That feeling I'll never forget. It was so nice to finally hold them, Reytes said. They were just really happy that I was out and I was okay. It kind of just eased their minds, Reytes said of his wife and children. We're just kind of trying to take it one day at a time. But Reytes, who said he joined the army when he was 18 and was deployed to Iraq in 2019, said he and his family are still in distress about the events of July 10th. Joined the army when he was 18, deployed in Iraq in 2019. Okay, this is 6 years ago. Okay. Just doing some math in my head, which I know is a dangerous prospect. Quote, no one deserves to be treated the way I did, he said. Well, since CNN didn't bother, or the government is not willing to tell us what the circumstances were, but his own story sounds kind of goofy, but I don't know. Quote, it shouldn't even matter if I'm a veteran. It shouldn't matter that I'm a U.S. citizen, or the color of my skin, or if I'm here illegally, or I'm an immigrant. Okay. Reytes said he apologized to his daughter for missing her birthday. Because she's so young, he was unable to explain to her why he was gone, he said. Also, she probably doesn't understand what a birthday is either. It's just something I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life, he said. Okay. So, yeah. Another story where I'm just kind of like, I don't know, guys. What do you guys think? In the chat. Let me know. Let me scroll up a little bit here. Read by nature. Surprisingly, they know what a father is when not pushing gender ideology. Ooh. Suzanne Richard, he's actually interfering at this point with a legal operation. And that was my thought, is like, he shows up, he starts yelling and screaming at the people there, he starts moving his car around, they tell him to stop at guard, because they don't know, like the cops don't know who this guy is, they don't know what his deal is, and depending on what he was doing, which we don't have any reference for what he was doing, his behavior might have been suspicious given the circumstances. And if he wasn't willing to identify himself or something and he starts driving off, they're probably going to try to stop him. Advocatus, they have 72 hours to charge you when you are detained. They just milked it because he gave them problems. Possibly so. Swirly, fairly abbreviated. Is that a band name? If not, it probably should be. Let's see. Advocatus, you don't have a right to an attorney until they question you. That's also true. Let's see. Susanna, you might need treatment if the glass actually entered the skin and needs to be removed, but you'd feel that and he'd be saying that. Yeah, a gash on his leg. Like I've had a big scratch on my leg before. It didn't require stitches, but it was like, the kind of thing that makes a really nasty scab for a while. So, Blue-Eyed Scream, where did he go first when released? Home or the news outlet? I don't know. Kiverdam, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's true. Let's see. Simon Wilkins, my Perry are with the father who lost his children. My Perry? Maybe I'm misunderstanding. I'm probably misunderstanding. Drama Queen, says Faithless. I mean, it sounds like it. Sounds like it. And Mike Savage, the music I'm hearing from 1.5 miles away is drowning out the sound of the tiny violins being played for this guy. Yes, it's true. Oh, prayers. Prayers. Okay, gotcha. Understood. But, yeah, so there you go. That is, again, guys, just so you know, if you're a U.S. citizen, it is a scandal. It is outside the remit of ICE to arrest you if you happen to be a U.S. citizen who is involved in potential criminal activity. I mean, I'm happy to tell you that's the case. Anyway, going from I.C.E. to M.R.I., man pulled into M.R.I. machine after he walked into an exam room wearing a chain necklace. Okay, if this isn't a scene straight out of the most recent Final Destination film, I don't know what is. But if it was a Final Destination film, the necklace would have, decapitated the guy. But let's see what the story is. Westbury, New York. A man was pulled into an MRI machine in New York after he walked into the room wearing a large chain necklace, police said. The man, unnamed, 61, had entered an MRI room while a scan was underway Wednesday afternoon at Nassau Open MRI. The machine's strong magnetic force drew him in by his metallic necklace, according to the Nassau County Police Department. Police said the incident, quote, resulted in a medical episode, unquote, that left the man hospitalized in critical condition. Authorities did not release his name and did not have an update on the man's condition on Friday. Well, if he was just walking into an exam room and suddenly felt himself yanked into an MRI machine by his neck, I'm guessing it's not pretty. But here's my question. If it was an exam room that was actively having a, MRI going off, shouldn't there have been some kind of, intermediary space between people being able to get into the room and getting into the room that should have been locked off in some way? A person who answered the phone at Nassau Open MRI on Long Island declined to comment Friday. Yeah. MRI machines, quote, employ a strong magnetic field that, quote, exerts very powerful forces on objects of iron, some steels, and other magnetizable objects, unquote, according to the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering, which says the units are, quote, strong enough to fling a wheelchair across the room, unquote. Apparently that's the story. I thought there was something more to it. So Grandpa walks in with some Mr. T action going on there, or some junkyard dog type stuff going on, and yank straight into an MRI machine. That's ooey. I got to tell you. Well, I mean, for all else aside, I hope the guy turns out to be okay. I got a feeling that the answer's no, because if he was yanked off his feet into an MRI machine by his neck. Ooh. But, again, the real question is, who is liable for this? What procedures were not done to prevent someone from just wandering into an active MRI machine? Also, Midnight's Edge After Dark is in the chat. It's Flava Flav, isn't it? Well, I didn't want to say anything. They didn't say there was a giant, cartoonishly huge clock or stopwatch at the end of the necklace, but you never know. But yes, guys, if you don't know about Midnight's Edge or Midnight's Edge After Dark, well, what's wrong with you? I don't have the time. Anyway, go check out Midnight's Edge and Midnight's Edge After Dark on the YouTube machines. I am often on Midnight's Edge in the morning over on the Midnight's Edge channel on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, where I'm the least experienced panelist, there to chat about movie stuff and entertainment news and be silly. That's basically it. I'm like the stowaway on the pirate ship. That's how I feel about it. Corey Suzuki says, cancer flashback. What do those look like? What does a cancer flashback look like? Do you just see like this amorphous blob of cells before your eyes just kind of like winking at you or something? There I go making fun of cancer. Sorry about that. JPS, story is fitting since I just watched Super Dave Osborne sketch where he has a magnet stuck in his butt. Oh man, Super Dave. If I'm not mistaken, I think Super Dave was Norm Macdonald's first guest on Norm Macdonald's show, his podcast. Oh, so funny. Oh man, those two together. Oh, it was great. One more story, guys. One more. I want to tell you about Russian cave women invading India. Just think about what image that's conjured in your head as I say that. Russian cave women invading India. You think I'm kidding. You think I'm making something up. But you'd be wrong. No, Indian police find Russian woman and her 2 daughters living in an isolated forest cave. Yes. New Delhi. Rather than that old Delhi where the sandwiches aren't nearly as good. Police in India's southern Karnataka state said Wednesday they found a Russian woman and her 2 young daughters living in isolation in a remote forest cave. The woman, identified as Nina Kutina, okay. Nina Kutina, 40, and her daughters, aged 6 and 4, were found by police during a routine patrol to Ramatirtha Hill, a popular tourist site on the coast of Karnataka, on July 9th. Police officer Siddhar S.R. Said the family had been living in the cave for more than a week. Police said they were taking steps to repatriate Kutina to Russia for overstaying her visa. She and her children have been moved to a nearby detention facility for foreigners living illegally in India. Where are the protesters? Where are the riots? How dare they excommunicate these innocent people who are there in this country illegally, but who have every right to be there? Oh, never mind. Police said in a statement that Katina spent her time in the cave meditating by candlelight, and that she told investigating officers she was, quote, interested in staying in the forest and worshiping God, unquote. Okay, are the children all right? Sridhar said Kutina told police that she had worked as a tutor in Russian language in Goa, a coastal tourist state in southern India. Quote, it is nothing but her love for adventure that brought her here, said Sridhar. I think it might have been something more like her insane religious zealotry that brought her there. But anyway, he said police found pictures of Hindu deities on the inside walls of the cave where Kutina had been living. In a photograph provided by the police, she is seen in front of makeshift curtains made of red saris that covered the entrance to the cave. The police statement said Kutina sent a message to her friends after she was found, quote, our peaceful life in the cave has ended, our cave home destroyed, she wrote in the message, according to the statement. The Associated Press contacted Kutina over the phone, but she declined to comment. On Tuesday, she told news agency Press Trust of India that she spent her days in the cave by painting, singing, reading, and living peacefully with her children. And how did they eat? How did they keep clean or warm or... I have many questions. But anyway, purportedly, this lunatic and her 2 hopefully safe daughters are in better hands now. But yes, everyone, Russian cave women invading India. I told you no fibs. Advocates Diabli, cave in India does seem like a step up from Russia, though. Depends on which part of Russia, certainly. Certainly. Susanoo, so she was a monk. If she can be a monk all she wants. I don't think a 6 or an 8-year-old can consent to being cave-dwelling religious monks. I don't think. I mean, I don't know what the laws in India or Russia are on that point, but hey, I'd guess. Caves have fungus. You can eat that. I learned all about cave fungus from Fallout New Vegas. Because if you have the cave fungus and, what else was there? Was it, what was the other ingredient? It was cave fungus and like some other plant or something you get back in the Mojave. And you mix it together and you make those really good healing poultices that are like better than stim packs. Yeah, I don't remember. Somebody else in here will know. This isn't the way to be cave. Do you have anything you'd like to say to that? Wowie, wow, wow. Yeah, tell me about it. Okay, then. Well, agave, that's what it was. Because I could see the plant shape, the little spiky leaves. And my brain wanted to say aloe, but it's like, no, aloe is from that really big spiky plant. We're talking about agave, yes. Thank you, Faithless. Yes, if you did not know, guys, in Fallout New Vegas, if you find some cave fungus and some agave, and I think the other part is some Brock flower, then you can make healing poultices, which are really, really good. Anyway, Juliet, why take her children with her? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because her husband was seeking custody. Just a thought. just a thought. Oh no, I ran off to this cave in another country with my children to meditate. I wasn't trying to hide or something. Anyway, everyone, that is effectively the end of the show. I had a report because I asked us in the last stream about advertising during streams. So I will not be putting on monetization during the course of a broadcast. However, I may turn it on after the broadcast has completed. And I got a report on what happened to someone when they watched the show afterwards and the monetization was turned on. They got something like, they said 12 or 15 different ads spread across the thing. I was like, holy cow. I hope that means I get like 15 cents or something. I guess. Brock flower and xander root? Well, I know Brock flower and xander root gives you the healing powder. But a healing poultice needs the agave, the cave fungus, the Brock flower. I don't know if is xander root also necessary in that recipe? Maybe. I can't. It's been a while. So anyway, if you're watching this in the future, you've already come to the point where you've probably seen several ads. That's YouTube. But you're not missing anything as a result because once you get past the ads, you're just here. And somehow, somewhere, for the sake of you guys clicking through those ads, maybe I get a nickel someday. Somehow. I don't know how it works. But outside of that, everyone, a couple of programming notes. Monday, unless something comes up, and I don't think it will, but if it does, Monday, I will be on Midnight's Edge in the morning at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, noon 05 p.m. Eastern Time for box office news and movie news and all types of stuff. And then later on that day at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time will be the next episode of DEI Death Watch. And boy howdy, do I have some news for you. I'm not going to tell you what it is because I'd be spoiling it, but it'll be there for more news on DEI, the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then, of course, next Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern will be the next episode of TED Excellence Will it be another episode dealing with inclusion? Not because I planned for this to be Inclusion Month, but because it's been turning into Inclusion Month. Who knows? TEDx drops new videos every other day, and I have to page through them all to make sure I'm not missing anything in particular. Darren Root, am I shadow banned here? Do you want to be? I don't think so. Yabba yabba do, comrade. That was a cave person reference. Anyway, hi Darren Root. Oh well. What? I just said hello. Is it not catching up yet? Is there a delay? Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe pinned to the top of the chat box for our friend Angela Arriaga. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Also, by the way, did you know I have a Discord server? Would you like to join the Discord server? A link to the Discord server is in the chat right now. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me you're not a bot, have actually watched the stream, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is M.R.I. Just say, hello, M.R.I., and I'll know that you watched the show. But everyone, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. I hope you have a good Sunday ahead of you. I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.